You got this.
All right. Well, I don't know where the show notes are.
We're live. Go ahead,
We're
man.
live, bro.
Breaker Crunchers. It's Saturday night in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to Couch Crunchers, where if you're in trouble, just say Johnny Depp did it and you'll get away with it. I am your host tonight, Lance. With me, the quad is back, guys. How's everybody doing?
Boom, yeah. Tyler, bringing it.
Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Max, and I'm very excited to be here. I also like the party.
I'm Tyler, and I also like to party.
I'm Sam, the movie mechanic. Tonight, I'm signing in as the murder mystery mechanic. I hate parties, but I love murder mysteries.
All right.
I do too. After the two movies that we just watched, did everybody get a chance to watch Clue?
Oh yeah,
I did. Yeah, I got it. Was great.
Yes,
Tyler,
I did. Yeah,
and then we all saw Knives Out, of course.
Yeah, I just rewatched it last night too.
Yeah. So
wait.
You guys haven't. Go ahead.
Does anybody have the Blu-ray combo pack with the plastic sleeve by chance?
No,
for Knives Out?
No.
Oh, okay.
I haven't bought it yet. Why?
All right. Well, there's a big Easter egg if you have that particular product. If you take the plastic sleeve off and flip it around and then slide it back on, it shows you who the killer is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Which incidentally was something I was looking for in the movie, was some kind of visual cue as to who the killer was.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's really fun.
They do a good job of keeping it kind of under wraps, don't they?
No, they do a terrible job of keeping it under wraps.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Are we jumping into it? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when it's
Well, no, I was just going to say, in case our listeners didn't get the hint, we're talking about Knives Out and Clue today and kind of comparing those two movies against each other. Clue was from 1985, I believe, right? And Knives Out was a Oscar contender that came out back in 2019. So we'll get into that real quick, and then we'll talk about Fab or Flub. And then a couple of things of what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're currently consuming, and so let's get into it. So, Knives Out. In case you guys don't know, Knives Out is a who. Go ahead.
Are we starting off spoiler free, or no?
It's kind of hard to. I don't know. It's a whodunit. So like the whole thing is like who did it.
Fair enough.
So this is a spoiler review, everyone. So we're going to talk about these two movies in great detail. And so Knives Out stars Chris Evans, Ana de Armas,
Daniel Craig.
He's awesome in it.
Is Christopher Plummer in it? He is, right?
Yes, he's the victim.
Yeah. So and then Clue stars Tim Curry, Michael McKean, a bunch of other people.
Christopher Lloyd.
Doc Brown was in it, dude. I think that's the youngest I've ever seen him like in a movie.
Oh my god. He is so freaking pervy, that guy.
Dude, I thought it was the scene where they're putting the dead bodies on the couch and Yvette, the maid is there and he's just creepily staring at her boobs. I laughed so hard.
I mean, honestly, they were out there to be ogled.
Oh yeah. I made several comments to my wife. My wife's like, "Why do you keep talking about him?" I was like, "Because obviously the director wanted me to notice them."
Yeah, absolutely. It was very clear. I was telling my wife, I'm like, "This is set in 1954. That maid is dressed extremely scandalously for 1954. This is pretty intense." Sure.
So the differences between these two movies, I think, is the humor that's involved with Clue. There's a lot more humor with Clue than there is with Knives Out. There are some laugh out moments in Knives Out, but Clue seems to be more of a comedy than Knives Out. Would you guys agree?
Yes, yeah. I feel like they have they had a lot more physical comedy in Clue. Not to say that Knives Out didn't have physical comedy, because Knives Out had one of the most hilarious gags I've seen in a long time, which is the girl who throws up whenever she lies. That was such a great gag.
Dude, that was awesome.
That was so funny. I've really enjoyed that particular mechanic. It was her lie detector test. But yeah, Clue is definitely geared towards high-paced action. It's supposed to be like the board game Clue, but I would say it's even more fast-paced, because if you're not having good rolls in the game Clue, it can take a long time to get those to get around the board. But it's a lot of fun. I do want to point out one thing about Clue, the original theatrical release of Clue. So if you watch it on DVD or you're streaming it, you'll notice that it has 3 separate endings.
Right.
Yeah.
When it was originally released in theaters, depending on what theater you were in, you would see one of those 3 different endings.
Oh, really? That's genius.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So if you saw it at one time and your friend saw it in a different theater, you saw 2 different endings to the movies. And then you'd have a third friend who would have seen a different ending to the movie. And none of you would understand why the other person is talking about Miss Scarlet or, Mr. Body. Awesome. It would have been. So you had to go see it multiple times to get all the endings.
I got to say, though, to adapt a board game into a movie, they did it extremely well. They got all the cool things about the board game into the movie, with the secret passages going into other rooms, and Tim Curry even says it was this person with this in this room. You know what I mean? Like, so they kind of pulled a lot of aspects from the board game into the movie that they did it very well, because we all saw Battleship that came out with
Taylor Kitsch.
Pilot Taylor Kitsch.
I didn't even see that.
I'm very happy.
Good.
I've heard it was horrible.
It was not good. And then, of course, we saw the Monopoly remake, that Wolf of Wall Street. Or not Wolf of Wall Street. Wall Street. No, just kidding. No, Battleship was not good. That's not how you do a board game adaptation. Clue, though, I was relieved, because I saw this as a kid and it bored me to tears. And then seeing it again was kind of like the first time I really was able to enjoy it, because a lot of the gags and stuff didn't go over my head this time. I laughed so hard when Tim Curry, he tells the older woman, it was Mrs. Peacock, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah. Oh, she's going to faint. Here, fall into my arms, And she goes and falls, and she just falls right through his arms onto the floor, dude. And I'm like, such a simple gag, dude. And I thought it was hilarious, But they did a good job of kind of just keeping everybody like entertained throughout the whole thing. When you kind of know this is kind of slapstick a little bit, not as slapstick as like Three Stooges or something like that, but it's kind of slapstick. It's not taking itself too seriously. Tim Curry seemed to be having the time of his life.
Oh my goodness, especially at the end there when he's running through each room and
they're sprinting back and forth through the mansion.
The whole thing, that especially that ending, it just made me think of because I'm a big fan of Psych, and there's a Clue episode in Psych where they do basically remake the movie kind of, and actually Christopher Lloyd is actually in that episode as well. They do that whole runaround thing, and it was just so well placed in that show, because I feel like the tone of that movie kind of matches Psych a little bit, and is so different from Knives Out. Knives Out is a little bit more serious tone with comedy thrown in, but now it kind of made me appreciate the movie a little bit more because I love Psych so much. And
Yeah, Sean Spencer seems perfect for that kind of role, doesn't he?
Right?
Like,
Yeah,
sure.
His
He was
bouncing off the walls and
yeah, there was a different butler, but he basically took over Tim Curry's thing running around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you guys this. In Clue, I don't feel like they left enough clues for you to actually solve the case. You can't really tell who's the bad guy at any point in the movie. It's just too crazy.
Well, and the genius of that is because they didn't do that, you were able to have 3 different endings that were entirely plausible, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the main reason why they didn't pin it down, or they didn't leave enough clues for you to really figure it out.
Well, I will tell you this. One thing is for sure. Communism was a red herring. That is for
sure. Yeah, that was consistent throughout the endings. Yeah.
Yes. And the FBI showing up. That was consistent every time.
So did you guys see any similarities between Clue and Knives Out? Like kind of what made them alike? Like we know what kind of differed them from each other, but what made them alike?
Well, the reason why I was asking about the clues is because in Clue, there's really one set of clues, and that is the clues that are available to the people in the story. And we only see those clues through their eyes. We don't really ever see anything happen in Clue that the characters don't become privy to. Whereas in Knives Out, there's 2 sets of clues. There's the clues that Daniel Craig's detective is seeing, and then there's visual cues that the director is using to signal to us who we should be paying attention to. And there was an audio cue too. I don't know if this stood out to you as much. No, it was the word donut.
Oh yeah. There's a donut hole with a donut hole, and there's a hole in the donut hole.
Okay, so here's what I think Rian Johnson was trying to do. In the very first of the movie, you see this interview, and the interview is taking place in front of this very odd, very out of place donut ring of knives. And and you see the people sitting in front of the ring of knives, but none of them is dead center. None of them is ever really well framed in the knives. They're always kind of like off to the side, so that the center of the knives is like over here. Yeah. Right? They're all off center. And the only person who is interviewed who actually shows up in the middle is Ana de Armas, the main girl. And that's supposed to tell you something, right? Well, there's one person who doesn't ever get interviewed in front of the knives, and that's Chris Evans.
Right, because they were having trouble finding them or something like that.
So those are 2 big visual clues as to what's really going on. But those are 2 things that the characters in the story don't have any access to. They're not privy to that. That's just for the audience to see. So that it's kind of like the director saying, pay attention to these 2 people. These are the people you need to follow along with. Everyone else, they're off center. They're out of the center. And if you didn't pick up on that at the end or at the beginning, by the time Daniel Craig says donut, and he says it so weird, and it's just like sticks out from everything else that's said in the movie. He just says donut, right? he says it so weird.
He like emphasizes it.
Donut. And like at that moment I was like, yeah, donut. He's talking about the donut, the ring of knives that is shaped like a donut. And he's saying there's a donut in the hole of the donut. Right? There's something missing from the center of that donut. And you need to go back and pay attention to that donut. And so that was something that kind of kicked me off. And I was like, okay, so there's 2 sets of clues going on here. And we are supposed to be privy to this kind of donut framing. That was meant for us, the audience. It's not meant for the people in the show. Whereas Clue doesn't have that second set of clues. There's not that second set of hints as to what's really going on.
Well, and another thing with Clue is like certain things just showed up. Like they're like, well, how would they have gotten to this room so fast? And they're like, well, they could have used this secret passage. And it's like, well, how would I know? There's a secret passage there. There's no way for me to figure that out, you know? So, I mean, there's definitely stuff like that, but I
think the difference is that Clue was meant to just be like a fun adaptation of a board game,
right?
And Knives Out was really meant to be a mystery, a true whodunit. Like, not that Clue wasn't, but like I think Knives Out was really setting out to do that, and I think it succeeded. But man alive, Sam, you catch things that never in a million years would catch. Like a donut, and they weren't framed in the middle, but Ana de Armas' character was. Like, what? I didn't notice any of that at all.
I noticed the framing, but I wouldn't have thought of a donut with the knives.
Well, I didn't think of it as a donut. I was thinking of it as a ring, a ring of knives. And it was such an odd thing. Like, his house is adorned with all these, like, books and paintings, but there's nothing in there that's really like that ring of knives. And so it's like, okay, well, this is something that we're supposed to pay attention to. And then when Daniel Craig says donut, and he says it in such a weird way, I was like, okay, all right, I get it. The ring of knives is the donut.
I have to rewatch it now. I never would have made that connection. Yeah. I just thought he said donut in a funny way because it was funny. Like his whole accent was like a comical version of a Southern accent. Yeah. And it was great. I think he did a great job. But
it was very
Foghorn Leghorn. Colonel. He says Foghorn Leghorn Colonel Sanders draw. Chris Evans says at the end. Dude, I laughed so hard, man. But Daniel Craig, his performance in that movie was just outstanding. I think he obviously is the standout performance in that entire movie. Did you guys know that they're making a sequel that's going to be based on another mystery of his?
I think that's great. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, so when you say based on, what you mean is Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc. Benoit Blanc is going to be reprising his role in the sequel. It's going to be an all-new mystery, but I want to be clear that this is an original mystery screenplay. It's not adapted from any other book or anything like that.
Rian Johnson thought this all up, correct?
Right.
Like the writers and it's not adapted from anything, but they're going to make a series of movies about Benoit Blanc solving these crimes. Kind of think like Sherlock on Netflix. Essentially, like a new crime for every movie.
And that's why I think it's a good comparison to Clue, because Clue also, although it's based on a board game, it's not it's not an adapted screenplay. It was original screenplay for this movie. It wasn't adapted from any other previous works.
Right. They just kind of took a few of the board games features and tried to work a screenplay around it.
They took a bunch of board games and features.
I don't think Lance knows his voice came out sounding super.
Oh, what's up with your mic?
No.
Last week when I was on, it kept doing that. And if we unplugged it and replugged it in, it was fine. But every now and again, it just feels like you're on Tiger King with like a blurred face, giving,
you have to have his shirt off for that.
How many weeks are we to go with Tiger King coming up in our podcast?
Every week,
it's worth it. It's great content.
New episodes coming out Sunday.
Yeah, there's a new episode tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. It's like a look back or whatever.
It's going to be hosted by Joel McHale.
Which Matt doesn't seem to like that very much, but I like Joel McHale. Community is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, Community. Yeah, we'll get into that later, but let's
keep talking about these movies.
Talking about these movies. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things I really liked about this show, because I know, maybe somebody who's like super genius about movie plots like Sam might have figured stuff out, but like I thought that they really hid the foreshadowing really well. And watching it a second time, I went, oh my gosh, I should have caught that, and I didn't catch that like at all. But and now I do, knowing the ending. But like the part, for example, when what's the old guy's name who died?
Christopher Plummer.
In the movie Harlan. Right? So he says in the movie, he's like, so if somebody switched these out, they could kill me. Like, right at the beginning, and he's like, if somebody switched these 2 vials out, they could totally kill me like that. And I'm like, wow, he just totally said the ending of this movie, like right. It just went, and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it was like so obvious that it just kind of was something that went in one ear out the other, so it didn't stick that was actually going to be what happened. So
yeah, Tyler, you gotta learn the rules of movie making, which is no line is wasted. You only put in information that's going to come up later. Anything that you're going to use later, you got to say in the first act.
That's not true, especially we're talking Rian Johnson here. So, I mean,
it's about Star Wars.
That's not always true.
Get over it.
It's true in this case. So.
Oh my gosh!
But I thought they did a great job with throwing hints at the audience, but not making it too obvious. And I figured a few things out the first time around, but I did not see the ending coming.
Yeah. There's a couple things I had figured out near the end, but I did not have the overarching mystery figured out. It was more at the end when Ana de Armas's character gets the phone call, and then she lies and says that the maid was alive, or it was the maid or whatever was alive still. And that Chris Evans hadn't killed her. I was like, oh yeah, she's lying and she's holding the vomit in her mouth. Like that was pretty clear to me. And then the other thing that was clear to me is the other moment when he goes and grabs a knife from the ring. I was like, that's a prop knife.
Oh, yeah.
They had mentioned earlier in the movie something about prop knives or something of that nature.
Yeah, not being able to.
That's what I'm saying. That's the rule of movie making. You don't get a lot of time to just throw, useless information out. You have to use it up. You have to be conservative and concise with how you use the information, especially with a murder mystery like this, where every little line has to count somewhere.
Yeah. No, you're right, because you have to think of the content of the movie. Because while I agree that for sure the whole line about someone could have switched these vials and it would have killed me is relevant to this movie, clearly, I think in another movie a line like that could have been used for a different purpose. Maybe it would still have meaning. But you're absolutely right. You got to think about what kind of movie you're watching and what lines are being said and how they're going to play out in the future.
Yeah, let me give you an example. So there was one line that they recycled many times, which was all of the children of the victim, Harlan, they say to Ana de Armas, the nurse, I thought you should have been at the funeral, but I was outvoted. They all tell her that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see, did it ever say who outvoted, like who didn't think that she should be there?
No, in other words, they all thought she didn't belong there, but they didn't want to say it to her face. So they were all trying to save face when they were talking to her, but none of them wanted her there.
Yeah.
They didn't care that whether she was there or not, but it's just when she got there, they put on the facade that they actually cared and said, yeah, well, I thought you should have been there, but I was outvoted. Well, if everyone thought she should have been there, but they were all outvoted, then no one really thought she should have been there.
Yeah.
They did the same thing by every time they said where she was from, it was a different country.
Oh, man, these people were so racist, and they were so, horrible. All of them were bad people. And you wanted all of them to go to jail. At least I did. I noticed the same thing. And, every time they say where she's from, it's a different place, and it reminded me of Scrubs, which is it's meant to be a comedy, and so they would always say a different place as a joke. But Turk, his wife is, now I'm forgetting where the character's from. I'm pretty sure it's from the Dominican Republic, and he keeps saying that she's his Puerto Rican princess. So it reminded me of that, but that was meant to be funny, whereas this was demonstrating how these people are racist and idiots, and they really don't care. about the people that work for them. They look down on them. It's that idea of people that are privileged. And that was also a clear theme throughout the movie. All these people, I deserve the fortune, I deserve this, I deserve that. Well, what did you really do for it? Because you didn't really do much. You just kind of, they were all bad. Like the in-law who was stealing money from him by what she was requesting too much money for the college payments or something like that, and embezzling $100,000 every month or something.
She was having it sent to the college and to her at the same time.
Yeah, double dipping. Yeah, it was just like they were all just dirty. They were all dirty and bad people.
I also want to point out there was some very interesting use of repeating the same scenes, but from a different perspective. So in all of the flashback scenes back to the night of the murder, they would show the same scene, but it was cut slightly differently to give you a different impression. So, for example, there's a moment where the son-in-law reaches out to the nurse played by Ana de Armas and says, "Hey, come on in. We want to ask you a question." And the first time they show it, it looks like they're being very welcoming and they're being very hospitable and gracious. But then the second time you go through it, you realize that he's getting ready to ask her something racist, something condescending, something horrible. But because you're seeing it from a different perspective. You see the first time from his perspective. The second time you go through, you see it from the nurse's perspective. And I thought that was a very fascinating device to give you the sense of you don't know the whole picture. You're not seeing everything clearly the first time through. Don't trust what you hear from certain people. You've got to wait till you get the whole story from a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think of what else because we're not done talking about this. There's so much more to talk about.
Well, I wanted to point out that reminds me of another movie, which is kind of like a mystery movie, but a little bit different. I don't know if you guys saw Bad Times at El Royale.
No, Max and I actually talked about that. It's on my Vudu.
Bad Times at El Royale is so good. Okay, so the idea is you have a hotel that is both in California and Nevada. In other words, it's got a dual identity. And everything in the movie is about duality. Every character has two parts to them. The part you see the first time, and then when you dig a little deeper, you see another part. And so when you watch the movie through the first half, you make assumptions about people that end up being proven wrong in the second half. And it's the same thing I was seeing in Knives Out. You're making assumptions about people in the first half based on evidence or witness statements that they're making that are not actually credible. And then in the second half, you're getting the clear picture of who these people are. And it was a really great device done by the director and the screenwriter to frame it in a way so that you can get more mileage out of the same scenes. You can film the whole scene one time, but then cut it differently and use it twice in order to get extra mileage out of it by showing you the first half of the scene earlier in the movie, and then the second half, which paints people in a totally different light later on to give you a clear picture of where everybody's motives are.
Yeah. These are things like, I feel like these are things that I notice, but like, how to put it and phrase it
more eloquently.
Sam
puts it more eloquently. Yeah, no, I've been meaning to watch that. It has kind of a Quentin Tarantino vibe to it, doesn't it? That's kind of the gist I got from the trailer.
Well, if we're talking about Bad Times at El Royale, it's kind of got this I mean, I don't see a lot of Tarantino movies, to be honest. I did see The Hateful Eight, and it did kind of remind me of The Hateful Eight because you have these people running around this one place at the hotel, and there's this kind of impending doom that's going to arrive. And you don't know when it's going to get there, but when it gets there, it's going to be all hell breaking loose. And that's kind of the setup of Hateful Eight is you have a bunch of people coming to this one place, and the first 2 acts are just tensions rising, and then in the final act, all hell breaks loose, and that's basically what Bad Times at El Royale is like.
It's kind of Tarantino's MO. I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the same thing. It was the whole movie, tensions were rising and boiling over the top, and by the end of the movie, the Sharon Tate murders, because she's not murdered in that movie.
Spoiler.
Well, we literally have spoilers written at the bottom of the screen, so
different movie.
I don't care.
It was a bad movie anyway, so you're fine to spoil it.
No, it wasn't. It was nominated for an Academy Award, so you're
wrong.
No,
they were wrong. It was
says the guy who loves Batman versus Superman.
Okay,
dude,
so
if you're gonna say a movie's bad, you gotta erase that from the likes category, dude. Like,
I'm not going
that
to.
Is the ultimate. Movie. That's the ultimate like trump card. Oh, you said that movie sucks? Well, you're wrong because you liked Batman versus Superman. That's going to be my argument for the next 30 years.
Baseless argument. My wife is an English teacher, and she's been teaching her students about logical fallacies. And that is a logical fallacy, my friend. That does not work. That is not how life works. Okay?
It means you have crappy taste in movies.
No. Just because I like one movie you don't like doesn't mean I have crappy taste.
No.
Okay.
No. Says the guy that has Warcraft on his Vudu. Says the guy that has
whoa.
What other movies do you have on there?
I'm not saying they're works of art. Warcraft is fun. It's fun to watch. And I'm a movie collector. Oh, come on. You've got a bunch of crap movies on your collection. Anyways. So let's keep talking about Knives Out. I had a question I wanted to ask. So the movie set out to be a murder mystery whodunit. And real quick, yes or no, did it succeed in that, Lance?
Yeah. I mean, the whole movie, I was kind of like, especially when they announced midway through the movie that Ana de Armas is the reason this guy, like, he figured it out that she killed Christopher Plummer's character. I said, oh, okay, they're not going to reveal that midway through the movie, so there's obviously something more here. Yeah. So it left me kind of questioning throughout the entire movie. And then when Chris Evans is like, I'm going to help you get away with this, that was when I was like, oh, he's involved somehow. Honestly, by the end of the movie, I thought everybody was going to have some role played in the part of killing their grandfather. I didn't think it was just going to be Chris Evans. Like, I thought all these people were despicable. All these people were doing horrible things to this guy. This guy got in fights with them throughout the evening, like each person individually, taking away money from them or privileges or whatever it may be. I was thinking that there was going to be something involved, like they were each going to play some role unknowingly to each other, some role in this guy's downfall. Even the housekeeper, for that matter. Hi, Kaylee. Yeah, so our audience got a show they were not expecting. Your wife just walked by behind you in a robe, Tyler. But yeah, they did. I think they did a real good job, because I was left kind of questioning the whole time. Clue with the same thing. I'm like, they haven't really told me anything that's going to lead me to. There's Kaylee again. Hi, Kaylee. They haven't really told me anything that's going to lead me to believe which one of these people did it. They all have a motive. They all have some sort of card to play in this game. So yeah, I thought both did extremely well.
All right. Well, Lance doesn't know yes or no question very well.
Dude, yes or no. Yes or no does not make for interesting radio, my friend.
Max, if he wants to explain his answer, let him go ahead.
I'm kidding. I had to do it.
Oh
though.
man!
All right, we'll go to.
Could
Tyler
you imagine
now.
every question we ask is close-ended? This would be a short show, dude.
Remember, I agree with you. Remember though, when we first started, I don't know whose idea it was, but when we first started, someone had the idea that Faberflub should be quick hit Faberflub and don't like give any reasons. And I was like, no, we got to talk about it. Like the point is to say why we don't like or why we do like this. But anyway,
as you notice, there's two people that started this show with us that are no longer on the show with us anymore.
Oh,
Shots fired!
I would say unrelated. Come on, there are no hard feelings between any of us.
I'm just kidding. All
right, Tyler.
it's easy to throw them under the bus when I know Cameron's not listening.
So
let's not go there.
A portion of the movie was a murder mystery whodunit, but pretty quickly you figure out that he did in fact commit suicide.
Yeah.
And so it became more of a whodunit to drive him to suicide. And so but I think that made it more interesting. It made it like more unique, for a plot line where like it was no longer who killed this guy because he killed himself. It was who drove this guy to kill himself. And
so what gave it?
No. You're missing it, Tyler.
Why?
Remember, he puts the question. Benoit Blanc makes the question that you're supposed to be asking the entire movie at the very beginning. He says, I don't know who hired me.
Yeah.
Who hired Benoit Blanc is the question that you're supposed to be finding the answer to.
That's the primary question.
Yeah, and I was thinking
it's not who killed. That Benoit Blanc is trying to figure out who, and in part we're trying to figure out kind of who killed the old man as well. But we kind of figure out halfway through the movie. We still don't know who brought that detective there until the very end when Chris Evans reveals it. And Benoit
That's
Blanc
the whodunit. That's the whodunit you're supposed to be solving is who hired Benoit Blanc?
Because he says it several times.
Which happens to be the same guy that's ultimately responsible for the death of Harlan as well. But yeah.
Harlan and the housekeeper. That's the one he gets arrested for. That's the one he goes down for.
Yeah.
It's not Harlan's murder because Harlan kills himself. You're right, Tyler, when you say he kills himself. But he also killed the housekeeper. And that was the one that he's gonna go down for life for.
But Benoit Blanc also says he says midway through the movie, he goes, no, the question's not who killed this man anymore. The question is who hired me. Like he says something along those lines when he's talking to Ana de Armas's character. He's like, it's no longer a question of who killed this person. It's a question of who hired me. So he's even telling you this is the question that you need to be asking yourself while you're watching this movie. I think they're in front of a fireplace or something like that when he says that.
I just feel like Lance is about to ask us for a ransom. Like
I know, right, bro?
Your voice is getting so deep, Lance. It's very romantic.
We're gonna go to Sam now. Unplug your mic and replug it in.
It's very sensual.
So does it work?
Very Barry White. It's very Barry White.
Yeah.
I think yes, it does work as a whodunit, but I think, as I've pointed out, I think you have to know the question that they're asking, which is not who killed Harlan, because you're going to find that out in the first half, and then the second half is about who killed the maid. But the overarching question is who hired Benoit Blanc, and he that's the question he's wrestling with, and he figures out the murder pretty quick. But the question of who hired him is what's really weighing on his mind. And so I find that to be a very interesting question. Now, when I watch a movie, I watch for certain beats. There's a very great book, kind of an interesting book. It's called Save the Cat, and it's a treatise on how to write screenplays that will sell in Hollywood. And it has 15 beats, and there's this midpoint beat, which at the middle of every movie, there's supposed to be someone who dies. And that's the same thing that happens here. Somebody dies right at the middle of the movie. And so when I watch these movies, I try to figure out, what's the beat? Who's, are they hitting the beats? Are they following the pattern? Are they following the correct structure? And, you have Save the Cat at the beginning with Ana de Armas. She's the one who saves the cat. And again, it's a figurative saving the cat. She does something that endears her to the audience right off the bat. And so we are rooting for her from the get-go. And the person that no one ever roots for is Chris Evans. He's the bad guy all the way through. You don't even see him until the end of the first act.
Which is one of the best parts of the movie. When he shows up finally and he's just telling everyone to eat crap. Yeah. that was freaking hilarious. That whole thing's great.
Or he refers to everybody not in his family as the help.
Yeah.
Like it's so demeaning.
Tyler, every time he said something, every time he used a curse word, I said that out loud. I was like, language. I did that every single time.
Come on, Captain America.
Yeah, this is a vastly different role for him.
Yeah, I want to say
and I think that was purposeful.
Yeah.
He's trying to change his image a little bit.
They said the most difficult part of this role for Chris Evans was pretending he didn't like dogs. Because there were some golden retrievers on set, and he just wanted to play with them, and they were supposed to be, pointing out that he's the bad guy, and he had to act like he didn't like them or that he hated them, and he said that was very difficult for him to do.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I'd have a hard time too. Gold retrievers are beautiful dogs.
You just got to put some sardine oil on his shoes.
Carol Baskin.
Oh, well, that's a whodunit that is probably never going to be solved, unfortunately, unless you can get a Benoit Blanc on the story.
No, did you see they reopened the case?
They did, but I still don't think anything's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. If they couldn't find any evidence when it happened, there's no way they're going to find any now.
Yeah, no.
First time.
I don't know. Anyway, we go back. Well, what else do we want to talk about on these movies?
Okay, so let's talk about Clue. So for a couple of you guys, this is your first watch this week, right?
Yeah. I had never seen it, surprisingly.
And
yeah, I'm shocked. That's a pretty
I never gave my answer.
Yeah, okay. Did it work for you as a whodunit, Max?
Yes.
Knives Out?
We can move on.
Well said. Well said.
Oh, we're gonna put Max in timeout.
Cut his mic. Cut his cam.
That's like Judge Judy. Judge Judy. Whenever somebody, Max put himself in timeout. Whenever Judge Judy is arguing with like a defendant or a plaintiff, and they won't stop talking, she's like, "Cut their mic. Shut them off." She's like, "I'm putting you in timeout." Like she says it at least once a day. Of the 15 episodes I watch daily now.
Oh my gosh.
But
Lance,
I know, dude.
Do you want
I'm
10
addicted.
million or do you want 15 million for the return of the dog? What do you need for a ransom?
Oh my gosh.
Oh jeez.
Sorry.
There goes Max thinking he's funny.
Tyler was supposed to laugh. I was using his joke. He doesn't even find me funny.
I'm lost.
Tyler's not paying any attention.
Was I coming in real slow again, or is that just on Max's end?
Oh, you're talking about
your voice is coming in low, and Tyler is still thinking about his wife walking around in a robe.
He's over here like, how can I get her out of that?
His mind is not even. He's not here. He's gone.
Tyler, if your wife's the reason our show gets pulled off YouTube, I'm gonna. It's the last episode you're on.
It was a shoulder to ankle robe, okay?
Yeah, well, okay.
Who knows? Maybe that's the thing that'll get us more listeners.
What happened now?
Now he's cut his mic. He's cut his. Yeah, your mic is dead, dude.
Yeah, what the heck?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but now you sound weird.
You got to get a new mic. You got to
sound like real muffled. Real muffled. Anyway, so you were starting to talk about Clue, Sam. Let's get back to that.
Yeah, so let's ask about Clue. So the structure of Clue is kind of frenetic. There's a lot of moving around, a lot of high-paced storytelling. What did you think who were the standout performances in that big ensemble cast?
Tim Curry for sure. That was the standout for me. He was just so much fun to watch, and it was clearly a story that I don't know if this is the right word, but it seems like he was the main character when all was said and done. Like, it was really his story. His performance was definitely standout for me, but everyone was enjoyable. Christopher Lloyd was a despicable freaking pervert. Man alive, that guy. Man alive. But
this is my favorite part.
He's funny. He was really funny, and I very much enjoyed it. You know, it was so fun to see this card game or a board game that I've played so many times as a kid, and to finally watch this movie that I've heard about for years. That I don't know why I never watched it. It was probably just one of those ones that my parents aren't really big movie watchers to begin with, and so I just never watched it as a kid, and just finally got around to it. My wife was amazed. She's like, "You've never seen Clue? Well, we're going to watch it tonight." And I was like 2 nights ago. And so we watched it, and it was a really great time. But Tim Curry was definitely the standout performance for me.
Tim Curry's the standout performance in every movie.
It's true. The Maid was a fun performance, mostly because her accent was so atrocious that it was just fun.
Well, you find out halfway through that it's fake.
You do? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, when she gets the noose put around her neck, she's talking in a normal voice.
I didn't even notice that.
Nobody caught that? When
Yeah.
she gets killed?
I didn't catch that.
I mean,
she's talking in a normal voice.
Attention on that part.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was kind of the reveal, telling you that she isn't who she says she is.
Or maybe she's just continuing to be really bad at the accent. I don't know.
I just remember partway through the movie, I was just like, this is like so stereotypical French accent, and it's so bad, but it's so fun at the same time.
All right, Tyler, as far as Clue goes, there were a lot of really fun scenes and moments in that movie, but what are the highlights of Clue for you? What were the story highlights for you?
I mean, to be honest, like I don't know if there was any specific highlight. I just kind of enjoyed it was kind of more of a playful whodunit. And it was just more of I just liked the tone of the movie. I wasn't like super blown away by it. But it was enjoyable and fun. So I don't know. I was just kind of on the fence about a lot of the stuff in it. Like I felt like a lot of the stuff was, like I said, like the hideaway door that just came out of nowhere and stuff kind of made me go, what is going on? And
well, it's 1985. Like I thought a lot of those things were pretty comparable to other movies in 1985.
Well, not just that, but it was pulled directly from the board game, right? That there's all these secret passageways featured on the game board of Clue, and it was a nod to those parts of the game.
Absolutely. I just thought it was a fun, silly movie. It was a good time.
Yeah.
They went so far to have the rooms named the exact same thing as what they are in the board game. They had it, you go through a picture and you come out of a fire or something like that. Like those were all the actual exits of the board games. Like you come out of the fireplace and stuff like that. Like they paid so much attention to detail as far as what makes the game great. The only part I was waiting for was somebody to pull out a manila envelope.
All right.
Like, here's who did it. You know, like at some point have like a manila envelope that says confidential on it. You know, that would have just been the cherry on top, you know, but it was a great movie. Like I forgot most of it. I think when I last saw it, I was 9 years old. When I last saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so all I remember about the movie is I didn't get it when I was a kid, and Tim Curry was in it, so I'll give it another shot.
Well, I would say if I had to pick a favorite aspect of the movie, all of Tim Curry's facial expressions, like, was the highlight.
Okay. He's starred in 2 movies where somebody comes to his big gigantic mansion to answer the phone or to use their phone through the ring.
Okay, I do want to point out that there is a Clue remake in the works.
What?
And yes, and it is. They had a director. I think it was going to be Jason Bateman was set to direct, but he's not going to be able to direct. Let's see.
That was the news in September, but now it's looking like it's James Bobin. And then
but yeah, Ryan Reynolds is set to star. Mm-hmm. He's kind of the fast talking, wisecracking star. I'm sure he's going to be the guy who takes over for Tim Curry as the wisecracker.
I love Ryan Reynolds, but Tim Curry, I don't know. I love Ryan Reynolds, but I just don't know if Ryan Reynolds is the right.
Well, he's probably going to be different.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a minute. You have 6 players in Clue. Who are you fan casting for Miss Scarlet?
Oh boy.
She was the one that was dressed in green, right?
She was the gal who was the lady, right? The brothel that had the brothel.
Yeah, she was the one that was making out with Christopher Lloyd on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. One of you guys go first.
I'm so bad at fan casting. I don't know. Jessica Biel. I'm just thinking of a brunette. I don't know.
I was thinking Scarlett Johansson.
So she was played by Lesley Ann Warren in the original, who was on Pure Country. I don't know if you guys remember Pure Country, but yeah, so she was the hooker essentially. And I don't know, when I see someone in this role, someone mentioned Salma Hayek to be Miss Scarlet. I thought that was pretty good. Okay. She's got some comedic chops. She's also very good looking. So I think she'd probably be decent in the role. I mean, you have to kind of settle for being a one or two note character. But I would hope that they would do something along the lines of Knives Out or El Royale, where these characters all have the facade that they give us at the beginning and then the darker side that they show us at the end.
What about I'm just spitballing here, but what about like Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence as Miss Scarlet?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
she's got the baby face. She could definitely pull off like the scandalous, but I don't know. She's got like that baby face to be in. Miss Scarlet doesn't seem like that would be her look, but I don't know. I'm not good at casting.
Or Aubrey Plaza.
I would say Aubrey Plaza for Mrs. White.
Remember,
she was a really quirky, really dry sense of humor where she would just deliver the lines so kind of off key a little bit. I think Aubrey Plaza is really good for that.
Oh yes, I agree.
How about the girl? How about the girl from I think her name's Rachel Brosnan from Mrs. Maisel.
Rachel Brosnahan
from Mrs. Maisel
as Miss Scarlet.
Yeah,
I could see that. That's pretty good.
I was
thinking Scarlett Johansson.
Awesome. No thanks. I don't need Hillary Clinton in my movie.
You like Scarlett Johansson?
Not anymore, dude. Like, I don't know. I think she's good. She was great in Jojo Rabbit, and she was from the little I saw of Marriage Story, which I need to complete. She was good in that. That kind of movie is like I need to be in a certain mood to watch that kind of movie. Do you know what I mean? And when we turn it on, like we kind of switched it over to watch something funny. But
it's a heavy hitter.
It's a deep dive, yeah. But Scarlett Johansson, I don't know. I'm kind of glad to see her leaving the Marvel universe. I'm just kind of tired of it.
Okay, I do have a fan cast for Miss Peacock, though.
All right, let's hear it.
Melissa McCarthy.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking Bridesmaid would be really good. Someone from Bridesmaid. So I was thinking Melissa McCarthy or Kristen Wiig would be really good as Mrs. Peacock.
Yeah, I think Melissa McCarthy would be really funny in that role.
I could see that.
I was also thinking of the I can't think of the actress's name, but Mrs. Weasley, the actress who plays Mrs. Weasley, but I think she's too old now to do that. But I was thinking she would have been good for Mrs. Peacock as well.
I mean, the only downside with Melissa McCarthy is she brings a certain brand of physical comedy with her. Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of
starting to shirk that a little bit.
She's been branching
she's
out.
had some more dramatic roles lately where she's
but there's always like a BO moment. There's always like a fat joke. She's always poking fun at those two things, her sweatiness and her fatness. Is always poking fun at those two things. So I would love for her to do the role, but steer clear of any sweaty jokes or BO jokes and any fat jokes. If she could do it like that, I would love to see her in that.
Yeah, she's recently lost like a ton of weight too, so that's probably why we're not seeing a lot of her lately. I think she's trying to like kind of shed that persona a little bit. She just had a serious role come out with Elizabeth Moss and called The Kitchen, I think it's called. That there was some Oscar talk about with her.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's based on a DC comic about three ladies taking over the local organized crime ring.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so let's go down the male side.
You know who would be good? Let me throw one. Christina Hendricks from Good Girls would be good as.
She would be good as Yvette.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
maid. I would love to see her as the maid.
Are you just talking about like this part? Like
Yep.
Oh my god.
Oh man. Yeah. All
right, so Mr. Green.
Who's next?
Mr. Green.
Okay,
that was Michael McKean in the original.
Okay, so he's kind of straight-laced. He plays the guy that's an out homosexual, right? Like he literally says that.
Yeah,
in the movie.
that's
a cover.
That's a cover.
One of the endings exposes that that's a cover, right?
That was the true ending, is what the streaming said anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, in the true ending, he turns out to be a undercover operative. I don't know. What do you think, Max?
I don't think this would happen, but I think Matt Damon could be kind of fun for that role. But I think that he's too big of an actor to be in that big of an ensemble movie.
I would love to see either Bryan Cranston or Bob Odenkirk, either Walter White or Better Call Saul in that role.
In that role,
Sam's just writing Better Call Saul.
I would think Bryan Cranston more for the Colonel. I think he could be good at the Colonel.
At Colonel Mustard. You want to see Bryan Cranston as Colonel Mustard?
Not necessarily. I think of those.
I think
Colonel Mustard better.
I think the best. So I'm kind of looking online at some other people's suggestions.
See, I was trying not to.
There's one that I keep seeing pop up is Nick Offerman as Colonel Mustard. Which
hell yeah,
he's perfect.
I want him in everything. Ron Swanson.
he's perfect. As someone that's kind of straight laced, that could kind of that's not goofy, right? Like we don't want somebody that.
It doesn't matter if he's goofy. It doesn't matter if he's goofy. I mean, Michael McKean had a lot of physical comedy based on the fact that he was supposed to be gay. Because when they pair up, he ends up stuck with Yvette.
I'm changing my answer. John Krasinski.
John Krasinski is Mr. Green. Yeah, I could see that working. That could work really well. Or Steve Carell, even, or anybody from The Office. Dwight Schrute would be an excellent Professor Plum.
I was just thinking that. Rainn Wilson as Professor Plum. Heck yes. That would work great.
How about John Mulaney?
He's good. I've never seen him act. I've only seen his stand-up comedy. I know he did SNL and it was very well received, but I didn't see it myself.
What about Carrie Elwes? Or Elwes? How do you say it?
Elvis, I think his ship has sailed. Unfortunately, I might see him as like maybe a side character, but I don't see him as one of the main cast. And then of course you have Ryan Reynolds as Mr. Body, the butler / Mr. Body.
Yeah.
I think we've got some good ideas out there.
Is that everybody?
Yeah. So we said Nick Offerman as Colonel Mustard, Rainn Wilson as Professor Plum.
I think Professor Plum should be Bill Hader.
Oh, okay, Bill Hader. He's very good too. Now keep in mind they're going to want to do some more diverse casting. So,
well, where can we put Michael B. Jordan in it?
Yvette. He's Yvette.
Yeah, there you go. Let's make him the sexy maid.
Yeah, man. Give him like a shirt that like is open.
No, there's a couple things.
A three-piece suit is give him a three-piece suit and he'll look good.
There's a couple things in this movie that would not pass today, I think. Putting somebody in that little suit or that little maid outfit would get a lot of people pissed, I think, nowadays.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know, but I think it's tongue in cheek.
Man.
It's tongue in cheek enough. I think you get away with it.
I think you could too. I agree. Anyway, we've been talking for an hour. Should we give our scores and move on?
Yeah, because I want to talk about some Fab or Flub. So, all
right. Well, let's start with Clue.
Some stuff that happened.
Let's start with Clue, and then we'll do Knives Out.
Okay, I'll start. I'm going to give Clue a 3 out of 5 and a throw pillow, so a 3.5.
Okay, I'll give it a 4.5.
Oh, nice.
I love Clue. I've watched it many times, and I keep coming back. It's so fun.
I'm same as Max. I'd give it a 3.5.
I think Clue is going to get a 4.5 from me.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. Do
right.
you want me to start Knives Out?
Yeah, let's go the other way around.
So Knives Out, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
So I actually liked Clue more than Knives Out.
Okay. I'd give Knives Out a 4.5.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Knives Out. I think it's definitely rewatchable, especially if you didn't catch the donut on the first time around. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm also in the same boat. I think 4.5. I like it a lot better than Clue, and I really liked Clue. Don't get me wrong, but I think Knives Out was better.
I just think Clue, if you set like I told my wife before we started watching, I said, okay, remember that this movie was made 35 years ago. Just keep that in mind. Like, movies were different. So when I put myself in that mindset, I think I enjoyed it a lot more, like, than I probably would have if that same movie came out today.
Well, I think that's why I liked it as much as I did, because it had that 80s feel to it, right. Which is a little nostalgic.
And Tim Curry, I mean, he's one of my favorite actors to ever live. I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I can't help but just bust up laughing whenever that dude opens his mouth. Like, he's by far one of the funniest people on the planet. I think they're both very good. Well, that was a good conversation, guys. I really think that we really dove deep into those two movies. So let's talk about some Fab or Flubs here. I've got this first one. So Thor: Love and Thunder, which has been pushed back. I don't know the exact date of when it's being pushed back, but they're going to explore Korg's origins a little bit, but not so much a love story. But they're going to kind of go back and explore Korg. I'm not too on board with this because I think Korg makes a good bit character. I don't need to see more of him. He's not interesting enough to me. He's just funny whenever he opens it. He seems like a token character a little bit. I don't think they need to put like kind of a spotlight on him. How do you guys feel?
Totally disagree with you. I think Korg is amazing, and I would love to see all the Korg. Give me a Korg solo movie or a Disney Plus series. All the Korg.
If they do a Korg solo movie, they just got to make sure they print enough pamphlets and flyers.
Okay, but like for real, I do think that this would be fun. I like the idea. I don't want a Korg solo movie, but Korg is a great character. He's hilarious. I would love to see more from him. I'm
but
down.
he's just not multi-dimensional enough for me. I don't
He
know.
could be.
Yet.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think it's fine to take a few minutes to delve a little bit more into who he is, but I'm with Sam. I'm not that interested in it. I think he's a fun character.
Sam didn't say anything.
I haven't said anything. You mean Max.
Sam hasn't.
Lance, I'm sorry, Lance.
Sam hasn't spoken a word.
I'm the same as Lance. What I meant to say. I think he's a good character to come in for some comic relief and add some fun to the movie, but I don't need to know his history that much.
Yeah, here's the deal. It's a
Taika
real
Waititi as Tim Curry's character would be awesome. I'm sorry, I know I'm just going back, but now that I'm thinking of it, I was like, oh, why didn't I? He's way better than Ryan Reynolds. But go on. I'm sorry.
Well, now that you mention it, Taika Waititi as Professor Plum
would be really good too. I don't know. Sign me up for anything he's in, because Jojo Rabbit, he was
He's
one
just
of the best
good.
parts.
Oh, it's so good.
Or have him direct it. Have him direct it. Maybe he can be maybe he can be the police officer that comes in, partway through.
Yeah, there you go.
But go on, Sam. I'm sorry, dude. I totally
it's all good, man. It's all good. Korg, I love Korg in his role in Ragnarok. And my concern is that if he becomes too heavy a character, is he going to keep the same charm? Is he going to have the same draw? Is he going to have the same emotional effect, the most emotional impact? I mean, he was really good as the comic relief, but if he's supposed to be the heart of the show, does he still carry that comic relief, or are they going to give that role to Thor? I would hate to see Thor become the comic relief of his own movie. So I'm really kind of concerned about the direction that Thor takes. I mean, we've talked about this before, but Thor's role in the MCU is to lose everything that makes him Thor and keep on plugging. And in the first Thor, he loses his throne, he loses his brother. In the second Thor, he loses his mother, he loses his brother again. The third Thor, he lost everything. He lost his father, he lost his brother, he lost all of Asgard. He lost his sister, he lost his girlfriend. He just loses. He keeps losing. And Thor: Love and Thunder doesn't seem to be pulling any punches, because now he's going to lose his identity as Thor, the God of Thunder, and he's going to be relinquishing that role to his girlfriend, Jane Foster. So is he going to even lose the spotlight of his own movie to Korg and to Valkyrie? Jane Foster, is he going to be taking a back seat and becoming the comic relief of his own movie? I mean, I hope not. I really enjoy Thor as a character. I mean, we all know that he's my favorite, and I have my cape right here, my Thor cape right here, my Stormbreaker up here. I've got my Mjolnir sitting on the shelf. So I really do hope that they don't make Thor a bit character in his own movie.
I agree. And I think Chris Hemsworth is just too skilled of an actor to even be reduced to a bit role like that. Unless it's something like Ghostbusters, because by far he was the best part of that new Ghostbusters adaptation. But I just don't think
that doesn't exist anymore.
What?
We're throwing that into a black hole. It doesn't exist anymore.
Just give me his scenes in one little DVD, and
he was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, you can get that off of YouTube.
Korg, in Endgame, that scene where they're kind of sitting in Thor's little house on the hill there is the one scene of that movie that I didn't like, because I just thought it was too easy. It was way too easy. Korg is just kind of sitting there like.
But then again, Lance, Taika Waititi didn't direct that movie, and he didn't direct that scene either. So
That's true. That's true. That might play a role in it. But if you look at Endgame as a whole, that scene is the weakest part of that movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Like Thor was kind of put through a lot of abuse in that movie. Well, no, not so much in Infinity War, but in Endgame, I mean, he was a completely different character.
Yeah, I didn't like it the first time. On rewatches, I've liked it better, but I didn't like Thor in Endgame the first time I saw it. And I'm a fat guy; I should like having some representation.
Well, that scene did have a pretty one of my favorite comedic parts to that movie when Rocket calls.
The video game thing was funny.
When he picks up the headset and he starts yelling at Noob Master 69, that's great. I can relate to that.
It didn't do anything to push the narrative.
It's a 3-hour movie. Not everything did.
Well, no, it does. It does push Thor's narrative that he's losing, right? Because what does he lose in Endgame? He loses his physique. He loses his charm. He loses his confidence. He loses it. I mean, he doesn't lose his worthiness, but he's lost so much in the MCU. I mean, the highest he's ever been emotionally, materially, has been at his very first introduction when he's about to be crowned king of Asgard. And it's all downhill from there for Thor. He's never had a higher emotional moment than that. It's all been just just watching everything he had slip through his fingers throughout his whole trajectory in the MCU.
That's why I would think, like, in his depression state, that he would have been by himself, just kind of sulking away.
He was.
Well, but he was with Korg and what's his name?
Yeah, because they're not making him face his pain. They're not going to say, Thor, stand up and be the man we all think you are, or be the god that we all think you are. They're just saying, hey, let's play, let's eat some pizza, let's drink some beer, let's play some games.
Yeah.
So they're goofing around with him.
They're his bros, but they're not his friends necessarily.
Matt, I completely agree. Like, I understand what. So Matt was saying he failed and he felt it. Like, I understand his depression, and I think that it was necessary. I'm just saying that the scene with Korg just seemed almost like a throwaway scene. That you could have done everything in that scene and expressed that without including. I don't know.
Well, I think
they felt
a
step back for Korg.
I think that was a nod to his popularity in Ragnarok. You didn't have to have him in there. I think they put him in there because he was so popular in Ragnarok, and the fans are going to go, "Yeah, we know Korg's still around. That's good. We want him to keep going. We want to see more Korg." And that's all you're getting is you're getting a fan response and the Marvel Studios acknowledging that Korg is a favorite.
So it's fan service more so than anything.
Yeah,
and they made him feel needed still. He was the guy that they went to and said, "Take care of Noob Master for me," online.
Yeah.
And so he would jump on and be like, "I'm the God of Thunder," and so they still made him feel like he was
a hero in some regard.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we talked about it, but Matt mentioned it's called depression, talking about Thor. And I think that on my first watch, I didn't think of it that way. I just saw, what the heck is going on with Thor? What in the world? And then as I started rewatching it, I've probably seen Endgame like 20 times. No exaggeration, because I just love it. But as I watch it more, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a guy who's lost everything. He's now depressed. And it's showing his journey through depression in a Marvel movie. So they're dealing with the issue, but they're doing it in a comical way because that's how Marvel does things. But I appreciate that. I think it's really cool to see that even a superhero, a god, can be taken down by mental illness. I think that's really cool. Anyway, I guess we're getting sidetracked. But
I just wanted to say one thing before we jump off. I think the reason that I'm not a huge Korg fan is because I am a fan of Planet Hulk. I don't know if you guys have seen that or read the comic book. Yeah, but Korg and Meek in those are completely different characters, and in the movies they're kind of reduced to bit characters, and they play a much larger role in those two books. So I think that's my issue with both those characters.
Yeah, I would say, Lance, that's not a healthy approach. The MCU, they are trying to create something unique, something that's successful, that draws on those source materials, but isn't 100% faithful to them. But it is every bit as entertaining. It's just in a different way. So,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like I always say, watch the movie first, then read the book.
Well, when I read
Don't
that,
tell my
the
wife
movie
that.
didn't exist. Honestly, when he came up in Thor Ragnarok, I was completely shocked. Like, I wasn't really expecting Korg from the Planet Hulk storyline. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, I know. I have to get past it. You know, a lot of those characters are different. It's just they're so different that it's still taking me some time. But let's move on to the next one. So Atomic Blonde 2 is in early pre-production. I never saw Atomic Blonde.
Oh, I did. Yes.
It's good. I really liked it.
I enjoyed it. My wife hated it. And she hates it because she doesn't like Charlize Theron's politics. Which I can understand that it's hard to divorce a character from the actor portraying them. But
I guess I don't understand that. That's not hard for me at all.
Well, I think it's just because everybody in Hollywood just has politics that don't align with a majority, like with a lot of the country. So I think I just ignore that. I mean, a lot of these politicians don't, or a lot of these actors and stuff don't have things that align with me.
I'm just saying that's why she didn't like it. Now, I did enjoy it because having enjoyed John Wick and John Wick 2, Atomic Blonde was directed by one of the directors from John Wick. And it has the same action style where you're following the actor doing their own stunts through an action set piece and the camera doesn't cut. As opposed to like Taken or Jason Bourne, where you have several camera cuts in an action scene that kind of give you the idea of action without actually showing it to you. And the worst example of that would be the recent Charlie's Angels remake, where you would have a million different camera cuts and you'd never actually see anything happen. You're just trying to imagine what would actually happen if you had seen
10 people that saw that movie?
I saw it because I knew we were going to review it for this. I wasn't looking forward to it, but we were going to talk about it for Couch Crunchers. This is the only reason I think
we
it.
did. I think we did or I wasn't on that episode because I had no desire to watch that. But I think I was out of town or something. I forgot that you guys did that. You guys talked about the Mandalorian.
We didn't say that we wanted to talk about it. Sam was just really amped. He wanted to go see it, so he went and saw it.
Yeah, it was not a fun time because after seeing movies directed by Chad Stahelski, John Wick, Atomic Blonde, where the action is top notch, it's hard to go back.
Yeah. Yeah, Atomic Blonde has this really cool fight scene in the staircase. That's probably the highlight fight scene in that movie, and it's really good. It's a good movie, Lance. It's on the Vudu. If you ever want to watch it, man, you should.
Yeah, I've attempted to several times. It's just not the kind of movie my wife's into because there's a lot of sex scenes in it, right?
Yeah, lesbian sex scenes too.
Yeah, my wife wasn't into it.
Well, let's also talk about the setting of Atomic Blonde, which is Cold War USSR, Cold War Soviet Union, and it's kind of a spy game, spy versus spy, and so it's a different story from John Wick, where John Wick is very much straightforward revenge action. He's got a single job to do, whereas with Atomic Blonde, you're trying to figure out who's trying to do what to whom. And because it's a little bit more convoluted, it's a little bit harder to follow until they explain it at the end. And then even then you may still have some questions. So if they're returning back to the same format, spy versus spy, I would hope that they would be a little bit more clearer on the explanation in the end.
That I agree. It was not a clear storyline. I don't really feel like I understood what happened. I still enjoyed it, but I don't really feel like I really understood it.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't realize it was
plot.
set in the Cold War. That's definitely something I'll sign up for because that's one of my favorite eras that are.
And it's in Russia.
In the Soviet Union. It's not real clear who you're supposed to be rooting for, or even what anybody's motives are. At the end, you realize that the person you've been rooting for may not be the good person you thought they were. but they come out on top, and that's all that really matters. So that's kind of it's kind of leaves you with kind of a weird taste in your mouth. Whereas with John Wick, you know what everybody's about, and you know what's going. It's very straightforward. So I think they tried something a little more involved with the story rather than just a straight up action thriller. But I hope that they can clean it up, make the story a little tighter, a little more clear, and give us something that we can enjoy and talk about on the show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, one last one. So, did anybody else have anything to say?
I was just going to say Charlie's Angels was really good. It's just that the audience doesn't want to see female action stars.
You're going to time out.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Tyler, another outburst like that, and you're going to your room for the rest of the night.
Yeah, you can go to your room. Watch
after Sam and Max are just singing so much praise about Atomic Blonde, and Elizabeth Banks still thinks that we don't want to see
female-led action stars.
Female-led action stars, which I am really excited for the premise of the Halle Berry starring John Wick spinoff that they've been talking about, which I think that's going to be great because
she was such a cool character, and with those dogs was so awesome. Those awesome. Dogs were so amazing. I would love
awesome.
I would love a new Turner and Hooch with some highly trained attack dogs. That'd be so awesome.
I'm not even normally like a big fan of Halle Berry, but she was great in that movie. I really enjoyed her character too.
She has a couple good roles that she's done, a couple forgettable ones, but she did Monsters Ball, which I think won her an award for Best Actress, right?
Yeah. I did not see that.
Very good in it. Very good in it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she does because people have that opinion. They're like, oh yeah, Halle Berry's a great actress. I think maybe I just haven't seen some of those movies where she's done a really good job. You know, I've seen her in James Bond. I've seen her in, she was in, what's that?
I thought she was great as Storm.
Swordfish? You talking about Swordfish?
Storm? No, I did not think she was good as Storm at all.
She was fantastic in the first one.
In the first one? She was the worst line in movie history in that one. You know what happened?
It was the third one where they chop her hair short and stuff that I hated.
No, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but no, I was very skeptical about her being in John Wick because normally I hear her being in something and I'm just like, oh, why is she going to be in this? You know, Kingsman. That's what I was trying to think of. She was
she wasn't great in that.
Just kind of meh, but yeah, she did. She surprised me a lot in John Wick. I thought she did awesome.
Was she in the first Kingsman or the second one?
The second one. Yeah, second one.
Yeah, well, the second one's not that
the whole second one ended up being not that great, but you know, before it came out and I heard she was in it, I was like, oh, great. Like it did not. Yeah,
it was just weak on a lot of different reasons, but well, one more. So Matt Reeves has been talking about. Hi, Kaylee. Matt Reeves has been talking about the Batman recently, and he has said that it's not going to be an origin story. It's going to acknowledge the origins, but he said it won't be an origin story, which I, for one, am happy about. And but it's also about corruption and a more humanist Batman. So I'm kind of wondering what that is, because isn't every Batman movie about corruption in some way or another? So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
What do they mean about humanist?
So he said
about humanity more, or what?
So his exact quote, he used the phrase when he was pitching the movie that he pitched Batman as humanist bent, which I don't know why he used that phrasing because it is not clear. I mean, you're asking what that means. I interpret that to be more like a Christopher Nolan type Batman, where it's more grounded in reality, and it's a more, just a human person, a hero less so a superhero, if that makes sense.
So he's the kind of Batman that can't exist in a world with supers.
Potentially. I don't know.
No, it's not that. So humanism is basically a philosophy that rather than focusing on supernatural or divine intervention in humanity to drive historical or catastrophic events, they focus on the events being driven by people and who are the important people at the center of historical events. So rather than saying, God caused this plague, they would say, who was the person involved that allowed people to live in conditions that would create an environment where a plague would flourish. So by saying this is a humanist Batman, they're going to be focusing on his choices. What are the choices he is making versus, is this destiny? Is this fate? Is there some kind of invisible hand guiding him to an ultimate end? They're going to say, what are the choices that Batman is making that drive him to the ultimate end of the movie? What are the choices that the villains are making? What are their decisions? Not what are the conditions that created them, but who are the people that are making the choices that are driving them?
Okay. Yeah, it does say when I'm looking at the quote here, it says, he says, I wanted to do not an origin tale, but a tale that would acknowledge his origins and that formed who he is. Like this guy, he's majorly struggling, and this is how he's trying to rise above the struggle. But it doesn't even mean that he fully understands. It's the whole idea of the shadow self and what's driving you. Is that kind of what you're speaking to, Sam, that last line there?
Yeah, so it's the choices. He's talking about the choices. The shadow self is this idea that you have a hidden side of you that's kind of, it's not necessarily the dark side or the evil side. It's just this unknown side. The shadow is the unknown or the chaotic side that you have to master, that you have to overcome through your choices. And so it's less about destiny. It's less about divine intervention or the supernatural or even superhuman abilities. It's about what are the choices that makes Batman somebody that we can root for.
Yeah,
I like that. That was kind of done in Batman Begins, like where he is going to kill, his parents' killers, and Rachel Dawes slaps him for it, and then he throws away his gun, and he decides to be, somebody who's not going to kill anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's why he's acknowledging that this is not going to be an origin story, because we did see a humanist approach in Batman Begins. And it was all about Bruce Wayne's choices and how he took on the role of Batman. It wasn't about his destiny. It was about the choices he was going to make to accomplish a goal that he set for himself. And
it's a very interesting concept. I mean, this idea that Bruce Wayne could have stopped the entire plot of Batman Begins from even happening, but because he made a choice to save Ra's al Ghul's life, the rest of the movie happened. And I think that's cool. I like that. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think Batman as a whole is a very humanist, a humanist ideal, because he's not superhuman. He's not an Ubermensch, he's not superhuman. He is the man. He is a man without powers, without supernatural or divine intervention. He just goes out and he makes choices and he gets things done.
Does he turn sparkly in the sunlight, though? Does that happen in this movie?
He might turn sparkly in the sunlight. I know that's still your Twilight fantasy. So
I really hope so, Lance, or at least maybe his car.
It'd be great if there was just like one
nod
throwback.
Yeah.
One nod, kind of like what Deadpool did when it said, don't make my suit green or a hologram or something like that when he's talking about his Green Lantern role. But no, I think that's an interesting approach. I know that they've said that this isn't going to be part of a larger universe, so there's no ability for Superman or any of these other characters to pop up. So I think when you're doing that and those characters don't exist, like I think the more humanist path is the right one to take. What I'm interested in seeing though is that it sounds like this version of Batman could coexist with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And I know that they've been trying to convince Joaquin Phoenix to come back for a sequel. Do you think that they have any room to possibly? There's been no rumors of this. This is just me spitballing. But do you think there's any room or possibility that they could merge these two films?
No, please don't.
I don't see Joaquin Phoenix wanting money bad enough to do stuff like that. I mean, unless he already wants to. He makes artistic choices based on the stuff that he feels like he wants to do, and I don't think he's ever taken a role because he thought it was going to be a big payday. He takes very daring roles. I mean, I'm Still Here is one of the weirdest movies ever, and
that's the Casey Affleck directed one, right?
Yeah, it was not a commercial success. It was very poorly received. But it was at the same time, it was a very daring, bold choice based on Joaquin Phoenix being Joaquin Phoenix. But I want to just before we move on, I want to point out that the idea of it not being an origin story, but acknowledging an origin story, has already been done with Spider-Man Homecoming, where we don't sit and watch Peter Parker get bit by a spider. He just, as he's explaining it to his friend, he just says, yeah, it is what it is. This is what happened. We don't have to keep talking about it. And
it's
Uncle Ben stuff. And
yeah, I agree. We don't need any of that.
It's already part of the cultural history. We already understand it. And I think they're just going to kind of do the same thing that they did with Spider-Man Homecoming, which is maybe have him explain it to another character who's finding out that Bruce Wayne is Batman or something like that. And then just briefly, and we're coming in at the tail end of the conversation.
Yeah, or Alfred makes a comment about his father or something like that. Like that's all you need.
Yeah.
The images that we've seen from his suit kind of pay homage to his origin, where it's saying the bat symbol on his suit is made out of the gun that killed his parents.
Oh, okay.
So they're already doing kind of subtle nods to that.
Well, I mean, they could do something as simple as like him, going to where they died and putting a rose down, like they've had Batman do that like every year on the anniversary of their death.
Yeah.
Something like that. But can we talk about the state of the DCEU for a second? Like, so since this isn't tying in, like, we do have a Batman who's in an extended universe. This Batman's not going to be.
We no longer have a Batman.
We no longer have a Batman. We may not have a Superman. We don't know yet.
Yeah, which bums me out because Superman should have been done already. We do have Wonder Woman obviously coming out. There's Aquaman is still set to come out too, right?
Shazam.
We have Wonder Woman, we have Aquaman, we have Shazam, we have a Flash. We don't have
and Black Adam. There's a Black Adam movie coming out.
Yeah, Amber Heard has been fired from Aquaman 2.
Oh, what?
Why?
Yeah.
I know there's a petition.
No, I she's been let go. You guys didn't hear this. I mean,
I heard about
with Lance's joke at the top of the show, we were all aware of the fact that.
Yeah, Lance, do you not know about this?
Well, I read yesterday that she could 13 hours ago that she could face prison time, but
she's facing jail for falsifying evidence against her husband, former ex-husband Johnny Depp. She apparently cut off the tip of his finger, abused him physically, mocked him. he was able to record some of the mocking and got her confessing that all of the evidence against him was falsified and that she didn't think anybody would believe him anyway because she's a woman and he's a powerful man.
It's really harmed his career too, if you think about it. He got let go of Pirates of the Caribbean.
He did, but now he's back because of all the stuff that's come out. He took a lot of abuse when she came out with all of these allegations early on. It took about a year, but he was able to get the recordings and get his side of the story out. And he looks to be 100% vindicated, 100% exonerated. And he's now back
in court.
Well, I hope so. And now he's back in Pirates of the Caribbean. So he's doing a lot better. But Amber Heard, now she's having her turn in the dumpster, and she's out of Aquaman 2. And honestly, that's fine by me. If she's such a despicable person, I think she.
Yeah, there's a difference between I don't like your politics and you're a bad person. Like Amber Heard is hot, but I don't care. She deserves to be fired, right?
Yeah, it sounds like she's a little bit in the red on the hot crazy scale, though.
Did you guys see? So I'm kind of looking up articles right now about that whole thing. Did you guys see there's a recording of the medics looking for Johnny Depp's fingertip?
Oh wow, no, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
I'll share it on
she cut off the tip of his finger. Poor guy.
But anyway, to answer your question, Tyler, I am bummed about the state of the DC extended universe. I liked what they were doing. Justice League wasn't great. It was a step in the wrong direction, but I think they could have course corrected and made it work. But unfortunately, the way things are going, I don't even know if we're ever going to have another combined movie. It doesn't look like there's going to be any crossover.
We don't even know if Ezra Miller is going to be returning to the Flash now with his current court issue.
I thought that was debunked as a hoax. Well, he didn't actually choke that person.
There's video.
I know, but
like to the ground.
I know, but from what I saw, it was like from what I read. From what I read on that, the person asked him to do it. It was like a joke. It was like role playing, but I don't know. Did you guys hear about this? There's a video of Ezra Miller choking some woman.
Yeah, we did hear about that.
22 hours ago, there's a report that his Flash role may face the axe.
I don't know. I think any knee-jerk reaction to these stories, I think, is going to be wrong. There's always seems to be more to the story that takes like at least 2 weeks, maybe as much as a month to come out.
It's true.
And with Johnny Depp, it took several months for the other side of the story to be told.
Yeah.
So I would be reluctant. I'm reluctant to jump on board with the initial story. I think they're going to get a lot of facts wrong. There's going to be a lot more come out that's going to play this in a more favorable light to Ezra Miller. I think he's going to be all right in the end.
How dare you take such a mature and practical approach? How dare you?
I know. I'm such a dick. I tell you.
I don't know. The Flash role, though, in general, like what they were talking about doing with Flashpoint Paradox and introducing it so early with the first film and everything, I'm not too. The only thing I'm optimistic about is Wonder Woman, Shazam, and not even Aquaman for that matter. Like I didn't care. I liked Aquaman, but I thought Shazam and Wonder Woman were far better. But everything I've read is that those are going to just continue as solo movies, and they're not going to make references to each other anymore.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I agree with Max that there is a way through, but in order to get through all of this nonsense, you have to have a Man of Steel Part 2. And I think what you're looking at for reference is going to be the New Testament. The Justice League is basically set up like the early New Testament, where you have Superman playing Jesus. And in fact, Man of Steel definitely was making reference to Superman being Jesus. There's all these scenes. I know we've talked about it before, but there's all these scenes where he's essentially set up as this Messiah who's going to save humanity. And in fact, he even has this scene in a church where he's talking to a priest about so basically his Garden of Gethsemane. There's even a stained glass window behind him depicting Christ, or Jesus Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, getting ready to take on the sins of the world and save humanity. And so the Justice League, Batman v Superman, is supposed to be about Superman basically assembling his apostles, which is the Justice League, and where you have Batman, who's like the skeptic, who eventually comes to be the strongest believer, kind of a la Paul, where at first he's an opponent, but then he becomes the strongest proponent of Superman in the Justice League. But they fumbled on that, and they didn't take that particular vision forward. And I think it's due to the fact that Zack Snyder left the project, because it sounded an awful lot like that's what they were trying to do.
Well, and I agree with Max too, in the sense that there was a way to move forward after Justice League, because there was Justice League overall, the story was lacking, but there were some really good elements in that movie. Like there was some good camaraderie between the characters. Superman's personality overall, I liked it so much more than the direction they took it in Batman vs Superman. Like they made his personality more lighthearted, a little more jovial, which is kind of a little bit more of what I want to see out of Superman. That's
Joss Whedon's input right there.
Yeah. And I liked that. And I honestly liked Batman's character a whole lot more than I did in Batman vs Superman. And so
no, I don't agree.
I know you guys
completely
don't agree, but I did. I liked him a lot more. I felt like his character had a little more depth. But there was
they demasculated him.
They what?
Emasculated him.
Emasculated.
They emasculated him. They in Batman versus Superman, his role, he's the best part of that movie. They made him this terrorizing force for all these criminals and stuff. And in Justice League, they make him a puppy dog. They do the same thing with Wonder Woman's character. She's far less powerful in Justice League than she was in Batman versus Superman or Wonder Woman.
Well,
Justice League is an atrocity.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about power levels, that's something else. But they're actual characters. Like Batman was BA'd right at the beginning of the show when he's chasing down a criminal just to lure in a bug, and like the criminal's like, who like what do you want? And he's just like, I want your fear. Like he was like a BA Batman right from the get-go of the show.
I'm pretty sure that was Batman versus Superman.
No, that was Justice League.
That was right at the beginning of Justice League. So like he had multiple sides to his personality, and he also felt very humbled in that movie because he felt like he was, a big part of why Superman had died and was trying to bring him back. So it was like, so I felt like there was a lot more depth to his character. I understand why you don't agree, but I think there were elements to Justice League that were really good that they could have built on. And but now Ben Affleck's not even in the picture. Who knows what's going on with Man of Steel? So I think there were ways moving forward that they didn't capitalize on.
Ben Affleck himself said that the filming of Justice League and what they did to Batman is what completely soured his experience on the whole thing. He himself said they kind of put him like as a puppy dog, essentially. I thought in Batman versus Superman he was way more imposing. That scene where he's hiding in the corner, the very first scene you see him, and the cops go in that house, and he's hiding in the corner, and they shine the light, and he comes blasting down on him, and the scene where he's fighting all those people at the train station is one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen as far as Batman's concerned. I thought Justice League, the story was disjointed. A lot of it didn't make sense. The introduction of Cyborg seemed completely just kind of useless. Like it didn't really do anything for his character. They had a whole scene where they were down in a sewer with this giant crab thing
You're preaching to the choir here, Lance. I wasn't trying to say that Justice League was like this superb movie. I was just saying there were certain elements that they could have taken from it and capitalized on. I wasn't trying to like say this whole movie was super great and everybody's wrong. I'm just saying that
you know what was a better movie, a better Justice League movie than Justice League is Mystery Men.
with Ben
Stiller, yeah.
I bought that for my kids the other day. I found it at Goodwill for like $1.
That was a better Justice League movie than Justice League.
I don't know, man. I was stoked. I was so excited when they said Joss Whedon was kind of taking over the reins of that movie.
That was
and
such
it was
a
complete mistake. I'm a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, and I love the Avengers. I didn't like Age of Ultron as much, but the Avengers movie that he was on, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Firefly, he was a big part of, and everything like that.
Sure.
We
all feel the same way. We all feel the same way.
And what he did to Justice League, I would have preferred, and I did not like Zack Snyder doing what he did, but I would have preferred Zack Snyder stayed throughout the whole project after the end result that we got.
I feel like the way forward for the DCEU is to go back to the vision that he set up in Man of Steel. But I mean, the problem with Zack Snyder is his third act is not good. Like, it's not great. The first two acts of Man of Steel are really good. And I've seen it without the kind of dingy filter that they put the movie through. So if they could brighten the color, it really does change the tone. If they take the kind of yellow filter off of the film.
It brightens up his suit a little bit.
It brightens up his suit.
Yeah.
It gives you that kind of hope, that kind of excitement when he's flying through the air and his suit is a bright blue and it's a bright red. It changes the tone. But the idea I have for for Man of Steel 2 is it's kind of like, so the reason why Justice League is really bad is because they bungled Superman's resurrection. They make it so that he doesn't bring himself out of the grave. It's Batman and the team who are bringing him out of the grave, like a la Frankenstein's monster, rather than Jesus, right? So he's supposed to be Jesus. He's supposed to resurrect himself. And that's what they should have done. But they didn't do that. They did it like Frankenstein. Anyway, in Man of Steel 2, he's supposed to be like Jesus and ascend into heaven to find his father, right? So instead of him dinking around on Earth with everybody, he's supposed to go off into space and look for remnants of his father's kingdom, which is Kandor. And he bumps into Brainiac, right? That's the way Man of Steel should have gone. That's my idea for Man of Steel 2 is
this is like the perfect Easter edition of the podcast, Sam.
Absolutely. and here's the thing. Max. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice premiered Easter weekend.
Did it really? I did not.
Yes, it premiered Easter weekend, and it ends with him going into the grave, and you see the dirt rising up off the grave because he's going to be resurrected, right?
Yeah.
It happened Easter weekend.
I know I give Max a ton of crap about that movie, right? I'm overselling it, like how much crap I give him, but yeah, my daughter just made a visit because my wife's not.
She sounds cute.
The kids out there, but the Batman vs Superman had a lot of stuff that I did like in it. I mean, it had that Martha scene in it, but Justice League to me, I just can't get on board.
I don't know what's more inappropriate, Kaylee in the robe or your daughter in her diaper.
Hey, I see. I don't know if babies in diapers is going to get us pulled off YouTube.
No, this is a family show. We're good.
Exposed ankles. I don't know, man. Exposed ankles are gonna destroy us. But sorry, she totally derailed my thoughts, man. But
you were about to say how sorry you are and that you actually
I'm not
love
sorry.
it. And that
no, I don't love
wish
it.
You could take back everything you've ever said negatively about Batman v Superman.
I don't love it, but
oh, what a sweetheart.
But yeah, so Batman versus Superman got a lot right. It's just I think Justice League just kind of lost me as far as the tone changes midway through the movie, and I agree with Sam. They bungled the resurrection part. There was a whole thing where he was going to be in his black suit like it was from the comics and stuff, and they completely got rid of it.
Hi.
And I'm about to text my wife to come get my kid.
She's adorable.
But, yeah. But Max, I'm gonna let you take it over for a couple minutes. Is that okay?
Well, yeah, sure. Because I wanted to talk about one more thing before we end the show anyway. So last thing on the docket, and you guys are gonna have to stop me because I could talk about this for hours.
Did you get the game?
I did get the game. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I got it because I said F this when I heard about all the delay issues that were happening, and I just bought digital.
All right, now let me ask you this. Does the redesign live up to the things that you had in your imagination when you played it as a kid?
Absolutely. And then some. Oh, yeah. It's even better than I imagined it as a kid.
Because I looked at a side-by-side comparison of Tifa Lockhart in the original game versus how she's designed now. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I imagined it when I was a kid, right? She was always a babe. It wasn't.
Oh my god!
She didn't look like a Lego figurine. In my mind, she looked like a total babe.
Oh yeah,
who?
Tifa Lockhart.
Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII. Yes, the block character in the original, I remember imagining as a real babe, and in this remake and updated graphics, she's a babe. But it's so funny. I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about this, and they were talking about how this game is so horny, and they're totally right. They are, though.
They're so thirsty. The designers were so thirsty.
Oh, man. So, I mean, it's rated teen, so it's not like they ever go that far with the game or anything. But, yeah, Tifa Lockhart, her outfit is totally, like, thirsty, and it was in the original, so they're keeping true to that. But like Cloud is this beautiful looking man, and Aerith is gorgeous, and even Barrett.
Stop it. Aerith.
Her name is Aerith. It was always meant to be Aerith.
No,
you're wrong. Aerith was a mistranslation.
Okay, all right, keep going.
What it said.
No, dude, come on, Lance. This is like I've never geeked out about anything bigger. Let me geek out for a minute.
All right. No, I'm telling Max to keep going. I'm telling him to get off the name thing. Just keep talking about what you're talking about.
Let's get to some substance.
So you two are never going to agree.
I didn't even get to make my point, but I will move on past that. Anyway, the game is a lot of fun. The combat is fantastic. It's super fun, and people were really concerned. Go ahead.
No. The only thing I'm concerned about, Max. Chocobo breeding.
So far,
does it live up to the original?
So far, there hasn't been any, and I don't suspect there's going to be any, because if you aren't aware, this is only the first portion of the game. If you've ever played Final Fantasy VII, this is only the Midgar portion. They only did that, and they've extended it and made it a 30-hour game, whereas Midgar originally was like 5 hours of the original game.
30 hours?
And chocobo breeding doesn't happen until well after Midgar in the original game. There has not been any so far. I'm about 20 hours into this thing, and I'm loving it. So no chocobo breeding.
So no chocobo husbandry.
No. What was that?
Well, okay, I'm out. I just was in it for the husbandry.
So Lance is giving me crap for a second here. Yes, it came out yesterday, which was April 10th. Today's
Aren't
the 11th.
Aren't you supposed to be moving?
Okay.
I don't see any boxes behind you. Like, what the heck are you doing?
Because I wanted my
He's not packing.
Because I wanted my shot to be good. So here's how it went. Thursday, the game came out at 10 p.m. I played until 3 a.m. on Friday. I then went to sleep, woke up at 10 a.m., started playing at 10:30 all day, with about 3 to 4 hours of break time to hang out with my wife, go to the doctor for our baby, and do a little bit of packing with her. And then today I packed for most of the day and probably played for 3 hours.
And my wife gave me crap for watching 3 episodes of Ozark today.
Hey, I married a good one, man. Plus, I've been telling her about this for months. Originally, I was going to... So my work was closed yesterday anyways. So I had that day. And then, of course, I was going to have the weekend. And then I took Monday and Tuesday off. And Kelsey and I had an agreement. She was like, "Nope, I know you've never been more excited for a piece of media in your life. I'll just leave you alone. Do your thing. We don't have our kid yet. It's easy enough for her to just go do her own thing, and I do my own thing." But now that we're moving, that's changed. I'm going to be taking Monday off still, but I'm going to use it all for moving. And then today I did stuff for moving, bought a bunch of boxes and packed stuff. But I didn't want to pack my office. I needed it in the shop. Anyway, next week it won't look like this. All the paintings are going to be off. The bookshelves are going to be empty. Everything's going to be like gone by the time the next show's happening because I'm literally moving back to Arizona in 2 weeks. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the combat. So some people were concerned because the original game was turn-based. To where, like, the idea, well, you know what turn-based is. You should know what turn-based is. Well,
what are you doing, Tyler?
Yeah, that's a mistranslation, Tyler.
That's what it says, the whole game.
That's what it says, but they've admitted that it's wrong.
Yeah,
It's
fine.
That's
Just
the creators.
wrong, Max. Send them an article.
The creators of the game have said no, it's Aerith. The English people that translated it did it wrong. Anyways, you guys are never going to let me talk about the combat. So the combat isn't turn-based in this game. It's more action-oriented. But what's really interesting is that in some ways it feels like it's still turn-based because the way the combat structure works, you still have to use a time meter to build up to your special attacks. And your normal attacks don't really do any damage. It's not until you build up your meter to get a special attack that anything actually happens. Well, your meter won't actually build up unless you're controlling that character. So essentially what it means is that you need to use a character, build up their meter, do an attack, switch to another character, build up their meter, do an attack, switch to another character. You're constantly switching between your characters to build up their ATB GOG, as you call it, so you can do their special attacks, because that's the only way to really be effective. Unless you're playing on easy, then it doesn't matter. But I'm playing on normal because I want to experience how the game was intended to be played, and normal is what they intended. But the combat is super fun. The boss fights are super intense. There's multi-staged. The combat, you have to stagger the boss. You don't have to stagger, but if you want to be more effective, you have to use special attacks that will stagger them, that then make them more susceptible to damage. Really, really fun. It's just this constant loop of fun combat.
Okay, well, hold on, Max. I want to comment on your point here. So you're talking about limits, basically.
About what?
Limit breaks?
Limit breaks are there.
You're talking about building up your meter to use attacks.
No.
You're talking about limit.
So in the original game, you know how there was the time meter that would scroll and then you had a chance to do an attack? So that's kind of how this is. So for instance, you're playing on a PlayStation controller and you're playing as Cloud. You hit square to do an attack. It'll do damage, it just doesn't do a lot. You can do square or hold down square, or there's a few things you can do and it'll do some damage but not a lot. As you do those attacks or as you guard, your ATB meter will build up. And there's 2 meters that can fill up. Once you get 1, you can do a special attack. Maybe magic, you can use an item, you can use braver, which is not a limit break in this game, or whatever. You can use any of those abilities that you have. Limit break.
What's his first limit break?
Cross slash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and cross slash, if you actually use a limit break, you don't need to have your meter built up.
I'm going to put this whole Aerith thing to bed in a minute.
Okay. You don't need to.
I just looked it up, and the creators of Final Fantasy. Oh wait, are you guys talking?
No, you started talking.
I think my internet's messed up.
No, you started talking, so we shut up. We're polite.
Yeah, no, I just looked up because I'm gonna put it. I didn't know you guys were talking. I think you guys stalled out for a minute.
Oh.
But the correct pronunciation of that name is Aerith.
I know.
No, I know.
It came from the
that's
creators.
what they say, except for until
they translated it wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, until they started making this remake, her name was Eris. The whole game, her name was Eris, and then they're just just kidding.
Wrong.
Yeah, but
it was
Crisis
translated
Core,
incorrectly.
In Crisis Core, it was Aerith. It's been Aerith for a long time. Anyway, that is so away from the point. We don't want to talk about this forever, so I'm going to move on to something else. The combat is a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. And Tyler, if you have more questions, we can talk more offline about it. I'm happy to. But
I understand how Tyler feels. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's the same thing. You can't let go of Korg being different. It's the same thing for him. Anyways, what I don't like about this game, there's only like one thing that I don't like. Because they took what was originally a 5-hour portion of the game and extended it to like a 30-hour portion, they added a lot of fluff. And that's what I don't like. Like, they've added a lot of things that are great, and I enjoy them. But then there's like some sections of the game, because they break it up into chapters. Like, there'll be a whole chapter where it's just like you traversing from one area to the next area where the original game had a plot point in that next area. And it just feels like filler. And there's no reason for you to really be going through this sewer or whatever it is to get to your next destination. There's a little bit of character development that happens along the way, which is great. I love that they're fleshing out the characters more, but I just kind of I feel like there's some filler, which I don't enjoy. But the freaking game as a whole is a lot of fun. The environments, when you get to Aerith's house, dude,
I don't know what you're talking about.
That is the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen in a video game. And the music design in this game is so good. And at that moment, like, I honestly felt like I could put that on, open up my door because it's so nice outside lately, and just like feel the breeze, look at my screen, listen to the music, and just be in a place of zen. It's just, this is nice.
Well, I was a little worried about what you're talking about, Max, because when they're talking about making the whole game just Midgar, I'm like, well, there's two concerns. It's either going to be a really short game, or they're going to add a lot of filler stuff like you're talking about, because the issue is that they have hardcore fans where if they change the story too much, people are going to be mad. So, like, what content do you add without affecting the main story to add in like 5 hours of gameplay?
Some of it is restructuring things, and I won't get into spoilers, but like some of it is like they're telling the story a little bit differently. It's still the same story so far, but like they're telling things that maybe you wouldn't have found out about until later on in the original game. They're telling you about those things now in this game to give you more story and like character development. But I would say the filler is annoying, but to give context, I'm in chapter 11 now, and I would say 2 of those chapters felt fillery. The rest has felt like good content that I've really enjoyed. Anyway, we're over 2 hours. I don't want to keep us going too much longer. I think Lance and Sam are getting bored. So overall, I really love it. I don't want to give a score yet. Once I'm done, I think I'll give an actual score.
I predict you'll give it 10 out of 10 chocobos.
We'll see. I'm like a little over half the way done, as I understand it. A little over half the way
done. Does anybody else have anything they're watching that they want to shout out real quick?
I mean, there are 3 things that I always like to give shout outs to. Better Call Saul. I'm watching now Community on Netflix. I don't know if you guys watched it in the original run, but it's so funny. So funny. I have to pause it between jokes so that I don't laugh over successive jokes.
Ahmed and what's
Troy.
Donald?
Abed and Troy.
Yeah. Ahmed is the terrorist puppet.
Oh yeah, that's right. Their relationship is like one of the best I've ever seen on TV, dude. The 2 of them are just.
I remember that being a big focus. I remember that being a big focus when I watched it the first time around, but there's so much more going on. This on second viewing, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this is back, because there's so much more happening. That, like, for example, the dean in the very first episode is watching a video of some guy dressed like a Dalmatian dog. He's like some beefcake in a Dalmatian outfit, and the dean says, "I hope this doesn't awaken something in me." And then 4 episodes later, you see him ordering a Dalmatian costume. And then 4 episodes after that, there's some guy in a Dalmatian costume showing up. And then in the season finale, he's got 2 guys in Dalmatian costumes showing up. And it's like, that's the kind of joke that they tell, is that you see it in one episode and then they follow it through and they keep bringing it back, but it gets better and better. It snowballs with comedic effect each time.
It does
so
it really
funny.
well than other it does it so good compared to other sitcoms as far as like just putting little nuggets with a payoff that's like episodes down. I love that show so much, dude.
Here's
My
another
wife hates it.
Yeah, here's another little tidbit. My wife doesn't really like it either, but here's another little tidbit. They say Beetlejuice 3 times in the series, and the third time that they say it, a guy dressed like Beetlejuice walks across in the background.
I need to watch this show. I've watched like 2 or 3 episodes. It's funny. I just haven't finished it.
Unfortunately,
still on Hulu.
It's on Netflix.
On Netflix now. Okay.
Unfortunately, the Yahoo season isn't as good, but the last season.
Is the Yahoo season included on this Netflix one?
I don't know. I think they've got 5 seasons included.
Yeah.
It's the 6th season was Yahoo. It's also on Hulu. Community's on Hulu too. I just noticed that the other day.
Yeah, I don't think it's
where I
exclusive, but it's new to Netflix and it's a lot of fun.
But
and then the other thing is One Piece.
No way.
If you're watching it, oh my gosh! If you're watching it, it's so good right now. If you're reading it, it's even better. It comes out on Sunday mornings. It's free to read on Viz.com or Manga Plus. You can read the latest chapters. If you want to go back and read old chapters, you just got to pay $2 and you get the whole library of One Piece, almost 1,000 chapters worth. Something to get you through the isolation, the quarantine. I saw John Boyega, Star Wars sequel trilogy star John Boyega, had posted the theme song for One Piece on his Instagram today, saying he's a fan. He's a big fan of One Piece. So if you're a fan, you're in good company. If you're not a fan, get ready to join the biggest club in the world. I mean, there's literally dozens of us.
Dozens.
Is it the same dozen that went and saw Charlie's Angels?
No, it's the same dozen that are the Never Nudes from Kirby. What's it called?
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development.
Oh, Arrested Development. Okay.
Speaking of Arrested Development, I know I said this earlier, but I've been watching Ozark, and I'm 2 episodes away from being finished with season 3.
Oh man,
holy crap!
It's so dark. It's so just terrible.
That
like
show,
it's so good, but it's so dark and it's so just terrifying.
Is so good, man. Like Tyler, Max, I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I haven't. I want to.
If you're Breaking Bad fans, you got to watch it. It is so good.
So I know I'm making a lot of Bible references, but it's Easter weekend, so you have to forgive me. But I feel like if Superman is Jesus, then Ozark is the book of Job, and it's about how much you can take away from somebody and they still keep going.
Yeah,
and
it's all about the fight. Like it's just fantastic storytelling. It's so good. And every single performance in it is just fantastic. Like there's not a single down performance in that whole show. You guys need to be watching it. And if you guys don't have Apple TV, M. Night Shyamalan's show that came out in January, Servant, is fantastic. You guys need to get Apple TV. It's well worth the money. And they're coming out with a lot of good stuff.
Nothing from Apple is well worth the money.
I don't know, dude.
Tyler and I are on the same page.
Don't crap on Lance's recommendations, guys.
I'm just playing no.
Don't poo-poo his recommendations.
Apple TV, and they've made it available on every streaming device that you could have. So it's on Roku, it's on Fire Stick, everything. But there's Servant. We just finished Home Before Dark. We finished the Mythics Quest, the one about the RPG MMORPG company that was absolutely hysterical, from the guy from
Cones of Dunshire,
Philadelphia.
They should make a Cones of Dunshire show. I'd watch.
That's what Mythics Quest is about.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's not about that game, but that's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good, dude. It's so funny. I've never laughed so hard. But on April 24th, they're coming out with a new TV show called Defending Jacob that stars Chris Evans. And I'm way excited about that, too. So there's just a lot of good stuff on there, man. We watched Servant in, I think, 2 days, my wife and I, and we're just, like, itching for more. And there hasn't been, M. Night Shyamalan kind of pissed me off with the whole Glass movie. So it's nice to see him put out something to kind of regain my trust a little bit. He goes through waves, doesn't he?
I loved Glass.
Glass
Tyler,
don't say crap like that.
I love that movie.
Time
We
out.
just welcomed you back. Come on, don't say stuff like that.
I'm bringing him back. I'm bringing him back. Glass was not my favorite.
How?
Oh my gosh. Here we go. So Tyler, let's not talk about Glass anymore. Let's talk about something else.
How do you? I was trying to delete him completely, and I can't do it.
Musical chairs. All right.
I was trying to delete you, and it wouldn't let me. No. How do you follow up what Split was such a great movie with the crap load that was Glass? Like it was like Split was so good, and then Glass was just completely every moment you saw coming. Like it was just.
Yeah, that was the problem. No, it's not, the problem with it was not that every moment you saw coming. It was that the ending of it made you hate the two previous movies.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree. We could talk about this for a long time, but
let's not do that.
I'm gonna jump over a little bit. So Psych is having a binge-a-thon this month, so that's a big one. I'm not gonna probably do it because I've already watched Psych like 6 times all the way through. But
then you should have done your sign-in as Guy Buttersnaps.
Yeah, right. Or Clisby from the Clue episode. So that's coming out. That's great. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is still fantastic.
Oh, so good.
One thing that I'm interested in watching that I haven't yet is Stephen Amell's brother, Robbie Amell.
They're cousins.
Oh, they're cousins. Okay, so they were pushing this movie that they put together. Code 8. Yeah. So I'm interested.
Yeah, Max and I both saw it. It's really.
I haven't seen it yet. I bought it. It's on my Vudu, so I hope I like it.
It's on Netflix.
But I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, I know.
Is it on Netflix already?
Annoyed that I bought it.
I saw it back when it was doing like a limited theatrical run, and I saw it all the way back then, and I loved it. Like I thought it was such a fresh take on the idea of like mutants and stuff like that. Like it would make a really good X-Men movie.
Freaks or Code 8? What's better?
Freaks.
Okay.
Oh man, Freaks. I didn't like Freaks as much as you did.
I loved it. So good.
I
thought it was a little too dire. Like if you found out someone had powers, you think you'd really be that keyed up? I think you'd be more like, well, that's cool. That's cool. Let's see if we can put it to good use.
Yeah.
But they were like, let's kill him.
Code 8's really good. Like the premise and everything was like really interesting. It's just, and I like Robbie Amell. He's just not the best actor, nor is Stephen Amell.
You take that back. That man is so good at doing one specific thing, okay?
He's really good at doing the salmon ladder workout in Green Arrow.
And people that they have failed a city.
He is the worst Casey Jones ever.
Yeah, it was awful. That whole movie was awful, but
yeah.
They're just not. I love them both. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't. They're just not the best actors. I would never willingly cast them in a role unless it was the exact same role as the Green Arrow or Firestorm or whatever he was. But no, Code 8's really good, Tyler. I think you'll like it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it. I was just trying to say, yeah, I agree, Tyler. You should watch that, and it turned into a whole thing.
Yeah, we actually have been wanting to do a Code 8 episode, but it was something that like we literally talked about on the first episode of Couch Crunchers. So Lance and I were trying to see if Jay and Cameron might want to come on and review it with us. So we've been trying to set that up because we thought that might be a fun reunion since it's literally the first thing that was like ever talked about on our show.
We talked about Stephen Amell for like the first 4 or 5 episodes because Cameron could not say his name right for the and it turned into this running gag for like multiple.
Yeah, I don't know. Lost you. Anyway, I
do have to say that I thought his name was Stephen Arnell for the longest time. I I thought the M was just an R and an N, and they were really close together. The kerning was off on the printing, so I thought it was Stephen Arnell. I called him Stephen Arnell for the longest time.
I think Stephen Arnell is my postman that delivers my mail.
All right. Well, deep angry Lance voice is back.
Super.
I think it's time. I think it's time to call it a night. What do you guys think?
Amen, amen, amen. Let's get some ice cream.
All right, let's call it a night, man. All right. Well, with that, check us out on YouTube if you're listening to the podcast on Monday. Give us a nice subscribe over there and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're posting funny memes and stuff all the time. And check us out on couchcrunchers.com. Lance posted a couple cool articles this week about top lists that you can watch while you're in quarantine. Yeah,
we're trying to get you.
We actually got another one posting on Tuesday from Jay about the his top 10 albums to be listening to.
Nice
during quarantine. So
thanks, Jay.
That'll be coming out on Tuesday, and look at those articles too, because we kind of partnered with Geeks Who Eat on a couple of them. Some recipes that they've done for some of the movies that have been mentioned. We've included some recipes on those as well.
Nice.
So big shout out to Sarah and Matthew from Geeks Who Eat. But that'll be live Tuesday.
Awesome.
Nice.
The mighty return of Jay.
All right.
But thanks for everybody that's listening. Thanks for everybody that's going to listen on the replay. And we will be coming back next week at the same time at 7:00 Mountain Standard Time on YouTube. Make sure to check us out. But until then, keep on geeking on.